Don't pause. Press play. Don't pause.
Hey guys, Comics Plus here, Akasan, rolling solo here, about to see the first morning showing of Thor: Love and Thunder. What can I say? You know, you guys already know about my feelings about the first movie, or Battle Royale, or what was it, Thor Ragnarok? Out here it was called Battle Royale. You know my feelings about that. Wasn't really big on it, but it was much better with replay value. I expect the same from Thor: Love and Thunder, to be honest. That's pretty much all I can really say about it. I'm actually here at Cinecittà, something like that, outside of my IMAX 3D version. So it's not really sold out or anything. I don't think anybody really cares. I don't know where I'm actually going. G16. So yeah, that's kind of my feelings about the movie. I'm gonna try to record the full reaction for you guys, and I'm lost. Where is G16? I'll figure. Oh, there it is. Okay. That's basically it. Okay. Thor: Love and Thunder. I'll let you guys know what I feel. Talk to you very soon. Peace.
And flick. Oh, you flicked too hard, damn it!
Oh boy. Okay, I'm back home now, guys. Ready to talk about the Thor movie. I needed a minute. I needed a minute to think about it, so I just decided to take the train ride home before I kind of give you my thought out opinion and everything. Just I wanted to think it through. To think it through. You know, as I said, Ragnarok, it wasn't really for me. When I first saw Ragnarok, I was like, what are they doing? You know, what are they doing to my boy? But then, you know, after Ragnarok came Infinity War. See, the damn thing is even breaking my computer right now. The damn camera is, no, I'm not recording this over again. Just come on back to me. Like Mjolnir, give me the power. There we go. All right. So, but you know, then Infinity War came out, Endgame came out, and I was like, cool. It was fine, you know. Even with Big Thor, it was like, whatever. It was still cool. I liked Thor's journey. I think Love and Thunder is more of the same, and I hope that in time I'm going to appreciate it a little bit more. You know, if you like Ragnarok, I think you're gonna like this movie. It's more of the same, basically. It's more of that same comedy, lots of comedy. I think, in my opinion, I felt like the comedy didn't hit as well. Maybe, again, with a rewatch down the line where we see with Thor's journey, it might be better. But at this moment in time, I was just like, all right. I really don't, I'm not trying to be one of those people, you know, the anti-woke type YouTubers or such, but you know, you can see that there's a lot of stuff just kind of put in there where I'm like, whatever, usually about it, but sometimes it's kind of just like, all right, now it seems like you're just kind of putting it in there just to be like, okay, look, it's Pride Month, let's make this happen, you know what I mean? Like, and representation needs to be had, and you know, first and foremost, let me not even, this has nothing, this isn't even concerning Jane Foster Thor or anything like that. I'm just talking about outside of like I thought Jane Foster, I thought that story was actually really well done for the most part. I feel, and I can talk about it a little bit later, but there's just little other subtle things that and then sometimes just right in your face, kind of just like, all right, okay, I guess, like you really got to make everything like universally appealing for you got to hit, you know, checking the demographic, getting the check marks, things like that. It wasn't really a big deal, but then at the same time, I'm like, all right. And then at the end, there was something particularly that happened where I was just like, okay then, all right. So that's what you want to do with this character, okay? So and it's fine, whatever. But let me tell you what some of the things that I did like. Well, it's a lot easier for me to knock out the things that I didn't like. The story does pick up. The story gets better midways, I think, but man, is the editing and pacing is atrocious this time around. Like in the beginning, I'm like, it's almost like, you know, I felt like I was just watching a recap. It's pretty well, I don't want to spoil it, but you can assume even by the trailers that certain status quos were not going to be the way they were, but it felt really like it was just it was a recap, less than actually getting some of the story pacing fleshed out. It just felt like it was just like, okay, this is what happened, okay, and then boom, 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 let's just hurry up and get Thor to the next point so that we can actually start the real story. And it was a little disappointing because, you know, where things left off in Endgame, it was kind of exciting. It was kind of exciting to be like, all right, yeah, all right, I'm down with that. Let's go. You know, like the Asgardians of the Galaxy or what have you not, right? But you know, it feels like they kind of dropped the ball a little bit on that. And you know, for as short as this movie was, it would have been all right to kind of like explore that a little bit. And it felt like after Endgame that we were going to get some kind of big adventure like that. But I get that's not what the story that they wanted to tell was, and maybe it would have been just completely two separate movies, I suppose. I don't know. Maybe it would have been a little too much, right? But just the editing was pretty rough, honestly. The way they were kind of doing this. Christian Bale, I thought he was good. You know, I love my Batman here, but I thought he was a scene stealer in every scene. Everything he was trying to do, I thought he handled really well. I felt like he was channeling kind of a Heath Ledger, Jared Leto, honestly. Kind of trying to do a Jared Leto Joker, if anything, like now I know some of you guys are already getting upset over that, but it was in a good way, okay? It was in a good way. That's the way I saw it. But there are just little times where I'm like, bro, like, okay, you must have seen Jared Leto doing Joker or something like that. It just felt like he was trying to do something along that line, and for me, you know, Gore, that's not necessarily the way I was seeing him, but at the same time, that's the same thing I felt about Malekith. It's actually very interesting. It's very interesting because if you actually read some of the somewhat current day Thor comics with Malekith and then Gore, it's very interesting the fact that the comic book interpretation seems like they even got swapped in some sense, because Malekith is somewhat, as the versions I've read of him, he's kind of this like cosmic Joker, so to speak, right? He's a trickster or something like that, right? Now that we kind of got in Gore in the live action version, and then live action version of Malekith kind of came off more like Gore in the comics. That's the way I kind of saw it, so to speak. But I think Christian Bale did a really good job with the material that he was given, and by far he was the most intimidating part of the story, I suppose. I think that's really fair to say. He's I don't know if he was the best villain, but you know, they typical Marvel is gonna marvel their villains, right? So So, some of the things what I did like is I thought the soundtrack outside of the Guns N' Roses, I actually would have preferred that they had laid off the Guns N' Roses sort of homage, like, you know, the Immigrant Song with my apologies, probably Van Halen, I want to say. The Immigrant Song being utilized in Ragnarok, I think worked really well because it was like, look, it's one time, it's for this pinnacle moment, we good, right? Guns N' Roses' Sweet Child of Mine was in there. And then also the Jungle song, I think it's called Welcome to the Jungle. A lot of Guns N' Roses music was utilized. I don't know if that was necessarily a good thing or bad thing, but that was a little, the homaging was a little too much sometimes. Even with the characterizations of certain people that were brought into the movie, I'm like, okay, I see what you did there. All right, fine, whatever. but the actual soundtrack music, was really, really cool. Like, they did a really good job. The actual soundtrack, the orchestra type of music that they were using, but I felt like it was so underused, and it wasn't really edited in a way, laid in a way that really, like, it. There were so many moments where the soundtrack music would have been really good, but they used the Guns N' Roses stuff, and I felt like that was a missed opportunity, so to speak. So I think on the technical side, there are a lot of things I felt like really was missed, and you know, it wouldn't be an honest reaction if I didn't tell you the rotoscoping and just the technical side of things. The CG was, oh man, like it was pretty rough, honestly. Like, you know, there was the talk about the multiverse of madness where Black Bolt's helmet was completely CG. Couldn't tell, right? Couldn't tell at all. In Thor, it's glaringly obvious, and in a really bad way. Like, we're going back to the Tony Stark Civil War head kind of shaking situation thing. You know what I'm talking about, right? Where that visual effect where it looks like the head or the Bruce Banner in the Hulk Buster type of thing. We went back, if not maybe even worse, to that sort of thing, and it was really unnecessary. They really could have done without the helmets. I don't know why. I honestly don't know why the helmets kept reappearing, if that makes sense. Like, it was just and it happened a few times in just typical conversation, basic conversation. Helmet would appear for no reason at all. Going to war made sense, right? But that was glaringly obvious, like, that it just was really just bad, the rotoscoping and everything. I noticed that there were a lot in the credits. I noticed that there were about like 10 houses of people just doing rotoscoping, CGI, the VFX, and what was interesting about it is, like, it seemed like everybody just had a little bit of certain parts, very much like a way an anime is developed or so, or an anime is done, where you have some people do the main scenes, but then you have these smaller houses doing the in-betweens, the filler, so to speak, moments. And what was really interesting is that certain houses only had like 7 people working on it, and then there were 8 or 10 or about 10 or 11 different houses for rotoscoping and some of the coloring and things like that. So it was kind of obvious that it seemed like some places just didn't have as much time as they needed to work on it, and I think hopefully it'll get fixed in the Blu-ray. Taika, I think the director, I think he's got a great concept, and his cinematography is really well, like it's done really well. You saw that with the Valkyrie fight in Ragnarok, right? With Hela using the source light and the swinging sort of idea, and it really stands out here again when Gore is around, when things get a little more monochrome, when they play with monochrome. It stands out really well. I think that part was, and then the usage on the eyes, making Gore intimidating as possible, I think it worked very well. The absence of color most of the time when he's on screen and things like that, I think that works really well in this case. So I did like that. I think that's something that stood out fairly well. Other than that, without spoiling it, I felt like the plot was pretty weak, really weak this time around, and was kind of basic. There's, like I said, there's other things where it's just kind of like, maybe it's just Disney checking the boxes, where it had me kind of just like, man, it's not even a movie anymore. It's just basically just kind of advertising for marketing for certain demographics just to get them into the movie and get them talking about it. But maybe that's just the way it is now with the MCU. Maybe that's I feel like, and I'm very surprised, like I feel like Taika didn't see Endgame or even Infinity War, I guess, like, or forgot certain points about it, only because, how do I say this without spoiling it? Like, I don't know. It's okay. Let me put it this way. It's very much like a Donnie Yates, who wrote the Venom stories and has wrote a little bit of I think the Hulk or Thor stories, where it feels like it's a Donnie Yates sort of situation where the concept, the idea seems cool on paper. When executed, it starts to look a little campy, and it starts to make Thor. It makes Thor less of being Thor, so to speak. I guess we'll put it that way. Jane Foster being Thor, it works. It was cool. I will say there's a certain direction that they took with Mjolnir that I thought was really cool. That I'm glad nothing got spoiled on that side. I'm like, that's kind of cool. All right, I could see that working. That was actually probably the coolest part of the movie for me, where I was just like, hey, you hit me with something new. Okay, never seen that done before. So that part was kind of cool, but If this was a multiverse situation, I think I would have been a little more accepting of this, and I'm talking more about the third act or whatever. But it was kind of like, I can't really. Even if I gave you a hint of of a DC property, I'd spoil it for you. So I want you to see it on your own, and you can judge by yourselves. But for me, it was a groan. It was a huge groan, and I was just like, oh, okay, so that's a thing now. All right. That's all I can say without really directly even spoiling it. So we'll have to, I don't know, we'll check out the Patreon. I'm going to upload my full reaction to the movie, which is audio. Hopefully it sounds good for you guys. I hope you enjoy that. Check that out. Like I said, I hope the movie grows on me and I can enjoy it later. I do feel like the cast was a little weaker this time around, unfortunately. Or I don't even know. No, I don't know if it was that, but I think it was actually just the story was a little weaker this time around. And as a fan of the Gore the God Slayer story, I see what they made some changes, and instead of it being a story about Thor going back in time and pulling different Thors from different timelines, young Thor, King Thor, and then current day Thor to fight Gore the Godslayer. Instead of seeing something kind of cool like that and a wicked symbiote, I mean, I know they can't do the symbiote thing, but they basically had symbiote-ish relations in there. I'm like, yo, it was there. Like, instead of doing all that, they went a different route, which was almost similar actually. But I felt like it was kind of a disservice to Gore. But I'm not surprised. Honestly, I'm just not surprised when it comes to the Thor stories and even the Planet Hulk story. Putting it into the MCU, they just kind of, they chopped and screwed it and made it more applicable for the general audience. And I guess that's what it's all about at the end of the day. So, Red Dreaded Nation, stand up, speak up. I really want to know, how did you feel about the movie? I guess we can talk about it in the comments, but I just didn't want to spoil it for people. Again, my recap is, if you like the movie, if you liked Thor Ragnarok, you're probably gonna love this movie, though maybe not as good. If you were more of a fan of Thor, like suddenly now I remember I got teased so much and clowned so much for loving the Dark World back in the day, but now suddenly everybody wants to come around and say like the Dark World was a good movie, and they missed that Thor. But if you're a fan of that kind of more darker style of Thor and more medieval-ish fairy tale sort of style, Love and Thunder may not do it for you, but it is what it is. It is what it is. Anyways, we'll talk one of these days a little bit further, and we'll talk next time. Peace, y'all. Razgar.